Hello again, this is John Bush from the War Room. Now it may look like all we've got up here are a bunch of old ammo cans, but we're going to make it a little bit more interesting than you think the mundane subject of ammo cans is. We're going to start off with a Russian can. Now, forgive my pronunciation, but this is actually for the Degatirov. These were early World War II. They went to a canvas later on because metal became somewhat critical to the Russians. You have an interesting type latch. You've probably seen similar latches. Rotates down and not so easy. Pops up. Now the inside was set up to hold 3 of the flat drums, the pan mags that you see on top of the Degatirovs and all the World War II movies. Now on the lid you can see that it's kind of intricate. They had several bosses here that are spot welded on to conform to the round shape of the magazine itself. They've got some leather inserts to keep it from rubbing. The magazines are fairly durable, but this can was pretty much overbuilt, and that's when they realized they could go to the canvas style. Obviously, it's got the big red star on the side, but they're an interesting thing. Now, the Germans, they had all kinds of ammo cans, but one of the things that sets them apart is notice the placement of the handle. It's not in the middle like our can. So you could carry 2 of these cans next to each other, the hands together. Now that really is kind of a handy feature. Now they have a pull tab, so you could pull it out of a recess, or if you needed to, you could carry it that way. The latches, there were a couple different styles, but the latches pretty much work like a regular latch. This one's a little bit stiff. Now, what was normally carried in here were the belts for the MG34 and the MG42. Now, in addition, there's a can that's just like this from the outside, but inside it's got little metal partitions to hold the gunner's kits and all the little things you need to keep a gun going. And if you look real close, not on camera, but when you look real close, you can sometimes see in this area right here, the German Waffenamt and the code, you know, the 3-letter codes for the cans. Now, these cans were also made in Yugoslavia after the war. Now, here's another style can for magazines, and this is for the Danish Madsen. And they also copied the German habit of putting the handle on one edge so you could carry 2 cans right next to each other. And this had the 5 magazines for the Madsen, and the Johnson used a similar shaped magazine, that curved magazine, but it had a canvas pouch. So ammo containers and magazine carriers, everybody used them. Now in the U.S. service, we're going to start with early World War II. This is a typical early World War II can. You have a tab on the side here, and this was used in the water-cooled mounts to set the can in. You then take the lid off. The lid would come off, and then you could feed this directly into the Browning type machine gun. Now these early cans also usually had embossed on it somewhere the direction that you were supposed to load the belts in them. Because once a can was empty, you got belts, you reloaded the belts, you put them back in the can. Now there is a 30 cal can that's really rare and doesn't turn up that often. Every time I find one, it gets sold. It has a latch mechanism right here. So when you put it in an armored vehicle, it would go into the rack, it would lock, and then when you're bouncing across country, you don't get hit in the side of the head with a full ammo can, which would ruin your day. Correspondingly, the 50 cal can is called a side latch. And you'll notice the latch is on the side, kind of makes sense. Again, on the lid, we have an embossed round to show what direction you'd load it. And a lot of times you find really interesting labels on the side of ammo cans. This particular one is labeled for training, and a lot of times they're marked not to be fired over the heads of troops because there was a little question of reliability, and it's not good to shoot your own troops during training. Now, after World War II, we changed the design of the cans, and these are the cans that most of us find in our pickup truck loaded with stuff. Or if you drive a Volkswagen, you got a 50 cal can with a spare distributor and a lot of other parts. People who don't drive air-cooled Volkswagens won't understand that, but it's the way it's done. You know, this one is labeled just like a regular one, and they have an end opening cap, so you can take it off. Now, the cans also have the feature where you can pop the lid off, so if you put this in a mount, the belt comes out, there's nothing in the way. Pretty straightforward. And you can use it to store ammo, don't forget. You know, all the uses we put these things to, you know, it's well designed. The US can. Now, on a 50 cal can, you may find all kinds of ammo in it. Shotgun shells, flares, and this one's labeled for 223. Now, in addition, on the top, this one has your label that tells you it's in clips, 10-round clips, so that you can load it into a magazine and work, you know, what you need to do to load these. Now, this, you can notice it doesn't have any kind of an embossing on it that tells you which direction to load it. Now, these cans are haunted. When you seal these cans up, the rubber is so new, so good, you're sitting at home, it gets a little bit warm, and you start hearing these popping as the cans flex. But, you know, the ammo cans are really neat. And like I said, you can find a lot of cans that are different. Now, this is basically a 50 cal can in shape, but height. Now, you find these very low for some kinds of fuses and grenades. This one is for the flares that they shoot out of an aircraft, like an A-10, to keep the guys down on the ground from shooting with a surface-to-air missile. But the cans are really neat. And like I said, you can store tools and everything. So when you look at an ammo can, don't just look at it as a mundane ammo can. It's got history, which you can learn and benefit from, because a lot of these cans, especially the World War II, especially the armored vehicle cans, they're worth a lot more money. And when you're haunting the garage sales, no telling what you'll find out there. See you next time in the War Room.